Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and even good night, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me again and everyone here in the chat for another live Q&A session here on my channel. If you're new here, welcome. We've got nothing but big warm hugs for you here on my channel in this chat. My name is Angela. I'm a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator. And my channel is dedicated to those of you, see, I do it all the time, that are just getting started in this wonderful world of voiceover and audiobook narration. And through my channel, whichever you prefer, I share with you tips and tricks and techniques and things that we deal with every day, in this voiceover business and in my voiceover business. If you're not new here, then every week we have a new poll, which is usually the topic of the chat. And today we're talking about imposter syndrome. We're talking about not feeling confident in yourself, in your vocal performances, in your technical abilities, and just generally speaking, you're not feeling very confident in what you're doing, who you are as a voice actor. And I know we've talked about this a couple times, but I feel that, as you guys know, through my channel and through all of my Facebook group and then Discord and all of the little circles that I am part of, I hear this a lot, and I felt it was time to address it again. I know there's a lot of new people dipping toes into this endeavor, and the feeling comes, especially in the beginning when you're hit with the overwhelm, right? There's a lot to do in building any business, and voiceover is no different. You're building a business and there's a lot to it. And once you start to get into that research phase, just be careful not to get stuck in the procrastinating stage. But when you're in the research phase, you're starting to see everyone else around you in those circles as you start to become part of them yourself. And then, the comparisonitis starts. Well, I don't have this microphone. My voice is kind of nasally. Insert whatever here. We all deal with that, on a day-to-day basis. And in the beginning, it usually hits you the worst in the beginning, but I find that it hits me a lot. I'm getting sidetracked already. All right, so here was the poll. How confident are you about your voice or your VO performance? I am limited in characters there, but that could also include your editing abilities, the technical side. How confident are you right now in whatever you're trying to do, right? And if you feel like you're stuck with something in particular, then put it in the chat. We'll talk about it. But it's usually a combination of things, right? Especially, again, in the beginning where there's just so much to do and it's a little overwhelming. But it looks like so far we have 26 votes, and we do have 8% of you said very confident. 46% of you, so it looks like the majority said you struggle sometimes. 15% of you said I feel stuck and I can't get over it, can't get past it. And then 31% of you said I haven't started any VO yet. Okay. So for those of you that have not started yet, everything that we talk about today is not meant to scare you, but in your position, I would much rather know what I'm getting into and what to expect and what is normal in starting any business, and especially in this endeavor or this, voiceover career that you're looking to get into, that everything that we talk about is quite normal. So we'll talk about some ways to get past it and how I deal with it. And then I'm sure some other people in the chat will share with us as well. Okay. So let's get over to the chat, and there are a few ways that I know of to get past imposter syndrome and not feeling very confident. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we can talk about here, and I'm sure that your questions and some people in the chat will have some prompts for me to tackle some of these things. So I'm going to stop talking and just get over to the chat. Okay, who's in first? Caesar is. Hey, Caesar. Caesar says, it's very hard to say very confident, even if 99.99% of the time that's how I feel, because the artist part of voice artist will always nitpick. Of course, the creative side of you is always going to be second guessing. I think that that's just human nature, right? Especially if you have a lot already invested, if you have a lot of your time, hopes and dreams, you have all of this invested, and you're going to second guess yourself a lot. And it takes some time and some practice to really just get to the point where you trust yourself, right? But always, I don't know if that nitpick ever goes away. I think that's just human nature. Caesar then says, to add to that, the engineer part of sound engineer will also nitpick. So there's that. I think we are our harshest critics. And we are. For sure we are. We are our own worst critics. And we get too caught up and worried about our opinion of how we sound, right? When we shouldn't, because we are our own worst critics. So little things in our recordings that we can't get past or we think is a problem may not be a problem to other people. And it's really not our opinion that matters. Ultimately, it's not. It's the end user's opinion that matters. The client, the rights holder, the audience of whatever voiceover you're doing. Ultimately, it's their opinion. The client is paying you for a service. And if they chose you based on your demos or speaking with you or, whatever, then there's got to be something that you're doing right if they have chosen you, right? Even if you hate the sound of your own voice and just cringe every time you hear it, you have to remember that we're not used to hearing our voices outside of our head, right? I mean, before you got into voiceover, how many times have you heard yourself speaking like in a voicemail or in a video or something like that? It's probably not as common now because, everybody's on social media recording TikToks and stuff like that, and they hear their voices. But I mean, coming from my generation and older, we didn't really hear our voices recorded a whole lot, right? We're used to hearing it inside our head. It sounds much different outside of our head than it does inside of our head. So getting past that is something in and of itself. I feel a tangent coming. Caesar says, oftentimes we forget to celebrate our wins and hyper-focus on what could have gone better. There are good and bad aspects to that. Getting better is good, but feeling good is also not a bad thing. Absolutely. And I think that sometimes even what we forget is that we get so caught up in even where we should be, like when we start looking at other people, and then we go, oh man, I don't sound as good as them, or they've got this big brand, and they just started at the same time that I did. How come I'm not doing that? We get so caught up in where we think we should be, instead of enjoying or reminiscing or celebrating even how far we've already come. Because everybody's got a different path. I know I've said this a million times, but it's true. We all have a different path to get to the place that we call there. And that place there is your definition of success, or making it, or getting to the place where you want to be ultimately, whatever your goal place is. We all have a different definition of that. I was just as an example, I was talking to someone a while ago, and I kind of related it this way. Their end goal was to get into the NFL. I'm happy playing for college football, right? So everybody's got a different end point to their definition of success or where they're comfortable, where they want to be. And there's multiple ways to get there. So you can't truly compare yourself to someone else because their definition of being happy and successful is different from yours or could be different from yours. And that's not a bad thing. Don't worry so much about what everybody else is doing because they have their own direction. They have their own wind. They have their own path, right? They have their own direction. Your direction is your direction, and there's no wrong way to do it as long as you get there. And it's going to take as long as it's going to take for you to get there, right? Tangent number 2. I think it's important to say this stuff, but let's get back to the comments. My blinders on, his focus. Caesar says, that said, hello, Angela. Hello, Caesar. Hello, everyone. So one of the microphones didn't make it. Oh, because the humidity that you had there. And I had to pull it from life support. Oh, no. Lesson learned. A studio should be sound treated and also humidity controlled. That's unfortunate. Should we have a moment of silence for Caesar's microphone? I think we should. There's your moment of silence, Caesar. We all feel for you, buddy. I'm about 3 days away from getting a dehumidifier and dry cabinet, but something else arrived at the studio, which I'm very excited about, and will share with everyone in Platinum soon. Well, you can't just drop that and just leave. Man, what is it? Dylan says, hi, Caesar and everybody else. I, like many, struggle with mental health and imposter syndrome. Rears its ugly head often. It can be crippling at times and feel overwhelming. I don't know how, continued, Angela chose this topic today, but I thank God she did. The struggle is real. Dylan, it's just because of, it really is one of the things that I see most often. A lot of our own problems and with the people that I talk to on a daily basis or questions that I answer on YouTube or wherever, most of those problems come from lack of confidence because we get into our heads. Again, we're comparing ourselves to someone else, and maybe you don't know that that person already has 20 years of experience. You just look at them or hear them and you go, oh my God, I'm never going to be that good, or I'm never going to sound like that. Or yes, you can. It takes time. It takes practice. It takes coaching. It takes support. It takes just practice, right? Just like anything, it's like learning to ride a bike. When you were a baby or a toddler, or whenever I guess babies aren't riding bikes, but you know what I mean? The first time you rode a bike, you didn't just do it. It took a little bit of practice to do. It's like anything else, But I chose this topic because I hear about this a lot. And I think a lot of our own struggles come from our own lack of confidence in ourselves. So I wanted to address that. Dwight says, hello, VO Angel, Angela. Hello, fellow lurkers. Caesar, can't wait to hear your studio news. Yeah, same. Caesar said, funny, I was actually thinking about you, Dylan. You're the sort who shouldn't worry about imposter syndrome, and you really shouldn't, Dylan. But you do, just as I do, and just as I do, and just as I think many of us watching this do. I think even supremely talented artists fret over their ability. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's also just part of human nature. It's just another inherent thing, as just being just completely normal. But we get so hung up on it instead of just moving forward. And I think this is a good place to add the count to 5 and act action that I recommend to do. When you are in the middle of recording something or about to record something, What I recommend doing, and I've done this myself, when I'm overthinking something or if I'm like the pressure is on for whatever reason, big client, you want to make a great first impression, just starting a new book, your first project, whatever it is. What I have done is first, I'll get into my studio, of course, and make sure I turn on the phantom power of the microphone and then hit record in your DAW. Make sure the screen or your script is visible. Hit record on your DAW. Make sure everything is where it should be on your screen. And then close your eyes and count to 5. Who cares if the recording is running in the background? Who cares? Just put that out of your mind. Close your eyes, count to 5. And then when you open your eyes at 5, just do it. Just get into it. Just like putting like blinders on a racehorse, right? Nothing else matters. Just count to 5, clear your mind. And when you open your eyes, read that script. And if you have to read it a couple times, do it a couple times. Who cares? Cut out the one that you don't like, the best, the take that you don't like the best. But I find that usually your first read, like your first gut feeling or intuition is usually the right one. Because by the time we get to the second read or even the third read, we might have gotten to overthink it too much. And then we go back and listen to that first take and we go, oh yeah, I think I had it there. But some of us take a little bit of time to warm up. So maybe that second take is best. Maybe that third take is best. My point is that don't overthink the recording. Don't overthink, hitting that record button and needing to become the voiceover actor. I have this voiceover actor voice. Just relax, taking that time to clear your mind and count and breathe. Then reading the script has definitely helped me to sort of get over the, when you're like under pressure, you have that fight or flight response. It gets me past that freeze response where I'm just like, I don't know, just do it. That might help. That might help in a couple of different situations. So it's something I definitely recommend doing. Caesar says, oh, hi, Dwight. You are also supremely talented. I bet you fret over your ability as well now and then. Also, the news is exciting. Stay tuned. Dylan says, that's funny, Caesar, because I thought of you. Your voice and engineering talent should give you all the confidence in the world, but I completely understand why you feel the way you do. Yeah, I think we all do from time to time. And Caesar really shouldn't either, but, it's just, I think everybody feels that every once in a while. Dylan says, it doesn't have to have anything to do with talent. It's the voice in the back of my head that tells me, no matter what other people say, I'm not good enough and people won't like the product I put out. Every day I hear that stupid voice every day. And I'm sure most people in the chat would echo the same. I think we hear that voice I guess my point is you're not alone. You're not alone. I think it's normal and it's a good thing because you want to do well. Right? But what matters is getting past it and recording it anyway. And I think with the counting to 5 and then acting will help you get past that too. Ignoring that voice and clearing your head. Yeah, I can totally relate to that. And I'm sure a lot of people can. VO by Tony. Hello. 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 Good morning, everyone. Team Replay here. Longtime listener, first time caller. That's awesome. Good morning to you, Tony. Glad you could be here. Miss Johnny Tate says, good morning, Angela and everyone. Seems I am in good company with not started yet. I'm confident in my voice and inflection, not so much tech side of things. Again, totally relatable, but with time and a good mentor or a peer group, like a mastermind group, even just a Facebook voiceover group will definitely help to make you feel more confident in your ability, because you'll be able to ask questions to people that have, maybe a little bit experience in the DAW that you're using. Watching YouTube videos. There's a lot of videos on YouTube with little tips and tricks about using all kinds of different DAWs, because there are several different DAWs out there. And DAW, I always get this question asked. DAW stands for Digital Audio Workstation. That is your recording software. So I think for the tech side of things, it's just training and practice. It really is, because you don't know what you need to know until you need to know it. Because you don't know what it can do or what you need to be doing until, it comes up, or you watch somebody do it. So, getting some training will definitely help with that, but don't like let that stop you. Don't let that become an obstacle. Get out there on the interwebs and learn about it and practice it. And then you will start to feel better about your abilities, for sure. Dwight says, hi, Tony and Miss Tate. Welcome. Christine says, good morning. Armando C says, you're the best. No, you're the best, Armando. You're the best. Hands down. Hands down? I promise I'm not drunk. Just need more coffee. Hands down. See? My mouth is like a completely different objective than my brain half the time. I do words good. Joe Pace says, practice makes perfect. I get the sentiment, but I would not even say perfect, because there really isn't such a thing as perfect. Because everybody's definition of success, that place called there, when I get there, that is my goal, this place called there. Everyone's got a different definition of that. So there really isn't a perfect. Everyone has a different definition for that. So practice makes, or just practice. What was it? Practice until you're comfortable. Practice makes. God, what was it? What was it that we said? See, I'm old. My brain has a problem remembering things, but I wouldn't use the word perfect, because that is almost an unattainable goal, is my point, that using the word perfect. John is here. Good morning. John Freetag. Good morning. Good morning. Greenwood Audio Creations. Good morning or afternoon, everyone. It's still morning for me here in the desert. Good morning to you. Space Kid and Luna. Hey, Brian. Good morning, all. My cup of tea says morning, all. And then I've gotten imposter syndrome when singing as well. Yeah, I'm sure. Comparison is the thief of joy. It has gotten much better over the years. Yeah, that is, I have to say, that is probably one of the best parts. There's not a whole lot of best parts about getting old or aging. I would have to say that's one of the best parts of it, in my opinion, so far, is getting to the point where you don't care so much what people think. I'm past that. I'm not. I mean, it is what it is. You get what you get with me, and I'm not going to obsess so much about what people think. I'm just going to do what I want to do, Greenwood Audio Creation says, in my former life, I was an insurance person. They told us, fake it until you make it. You can't learn everything overnight. Best advice you can get. You're the expert for the client. And that I've also been in insurance for a short period of time, had a couple insurance licenses. And that is very true, because and I would think this would go for being a realtor or, in law and anything else that you're just starting to learn, but then you're basically just asked to learn some material, pass a test, and then get out there and then learn the rest as you go. The fake it till you make it thing is pretty much how that goes. I can understand that. And although the faking part, I don't know if that's right, but I think ultimately learning hands-on is one of the best ways to learn. And I think ultimately that's the point. Researching is great. Learning is great. Again, don't get stuck in the procrastinating learning stage, but learning is great. Training is great. But getting out there and doing it, getting your hands dirty, actively doing the work, working on it, like actively, is one of the best ways to learn. Because you'll come across situations where you go, oh, I don't know what that means, or I don't know how to do that, and then you learn how to do that and overcome that, where you might not have come across that situation to learn it by just watching videos, or you know what I mean? So learning as you go, doing it, actively doing whatever it is that you're learning how to do is one of the best ways to learn. And ultimately, that's pretty much the sentiment of that phrase, right? Because ultimately, you are the professional. You are the expert already in the client's eyes. So you have to, just do it. And don't just say, oh, I'm brand new, I don't know what I'm doing, because that might take a little bit of the trust and confidence away, from your client. They might lose a little bit. I mean, transparency is great. I'm all about transparency, but there are some things that I would never say that I'm brand new. Like, be gentle with me, I'm brand new. I would never say that, because that would give the client the wrong impression about you. As far as they're concerned, you are the professional. So if you don't know something, if you're in a conversation with a client, and if you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know what they're talking about, then put a pause on it for a second. Go, another reason to be, in these VO Facebook groups, or in a mastermind, or in a Discord, or, a part of a group of other voiceover peers, and ask them, or do a Google search, or go to YouTube and find out what it is they're talking about. There's a lot of terminology. There's a lot of, acronyms. There's a lot of really, in any business, there's a lot of new ideas and techniques and, effects and all these things. And you're naturally not going to know them all right out of the gate in the very beginning. So go find out what they're talking about and ask somebody in a group how to do it or what they're talking about. And then come back to the client and say, oh, yes, I know exactly what you mean. And this is how we get around that, or this is how we do that, or this is how I do this, right? Don't let the fear of not knowing how to answer a client's question stop you, because the internet is a glorious thing. Again, in my generation, this was a very fledgling technology that we didn't have access to. The younger generations, and you guys have this fabulous thing. The internet there should be no reason ever that you can't, answer a question for somebody and not sound like a professional with, the internet at your fingertips. Dwight says, I started my VO journey. Can't say career quite yet. Yes, you can. I don't want you ever to say that again. Imposter syndrome creeping in. Very confident in my voice and style. Then I started learning critical listening skills, and then it went way down. Active listening. Yep. And once you start to have the ear for voiceover, once you start to pick up on what a rough edit sounds like, or once you're made aware of how a breath sounds and how it could be off-putting, or mouth noise, or, once you start to learn these little things that are present in our voiceovers and the things that we look for to remove, you'll start to develop a more critical ear, and you'll start to hear these things out in the wild, in an audiobook, or, and that it's a good thing, but then it's also a bad thing, because then you're hyper aware of everything that everyone else is doing, and yourself as well. Rob Williams says, just finished an audition, better late than never. Good. Now go do another one. Don't sit and wait. And that goes for all of you watching. If you submit one audition, that's great. Celebrate it, especially if that's your first. Celebrate doing that first audition, because that first step is usually the hardest. Celebrate that moment. Give yourself a little piece of chocolate or something, whatever it is. Celebrate it. And then go do some more. Because one audition is not enough. It's not. It's a numbers game. I mean, it could be that you get that job from your very first audition. It might take a few. It might take a lot. Because again, winning a job with an audition is 50% luck and 50% talent. And those percentages may be off a little bit, but it's not solely about you or your sound or your performance. It's, getting to the place where the author, if it's an audiobook, has even listened to your audition. Meaning it could be that they received about 200 auditions. And I mean, who has the time to sit and listen through 200 auditions? Maybe they've listened through the first 50 and found, 2 top contenders. And now they're getting feedback from family members, which one do you like better? Kind of a thing. And they're not even listening to the other 150 that came in, right? And then even those 2 contenders, it could be a completely different voice than yours. You have to remember that the author or the client, really anyone in this scenario, has a voice or an idea of what they're looking for in their head. And if your voice, your tone, whatever doesn't fit that, it doesn't mean that you stink. It doesn't mean that you should rethink your career options. It just means you weren't right for that job. You're not going to be right for everything. Nobody is. And that's why I don't, just side note, that's why I don't see other voice actors as a competition. I don't, because there's a need and desire, and there's a job for every voice out there. Because again, voice actors represent the world, right? So many different voices out there. So I think there is an opportunity for everyone, and your voice is not going to be right for everything. So don't sit and wait on the results of that one audition. Keep going. Keep going. It could be audition number 5 that lands in the lap of someone looking for your voice and your narration style. So, it's kind of like, may the odds be ever in your favor kind of a thing. So keep going. That's my point, Rob. Keep going. Lots of tangents today. Dwight says, but now I'm growing so fast that I am feeling so much better and with true meaning and skill understanding. Good. And that's how it should go. That's how the progression should go. Greenwood Audio Creation says, good on you, Rob. Congrats. Absolutely. Now keep going. More. Do more. My cup of tea says, personally, the fake it till you make it felt off-putting and found the phrase practice makes progress much more approachable and relatable. Gotta thank my voice singing teachers for that. Practice makes progress. That's what it was. Practice makes progress, not perfect. I don't even like the word perfect anymore because it's unattainable. It's unattainable. So why make that a goal, right? Progress is what we want, not perfection. There's no such thing. Dwight says, Rob, where's the donuts? Yeah, if you're late, donuts. That's how we do it here. Brian says, normally I feel pretty confident, but I get snagged when I hit challenges. I'm working on a new genre. I'm used to a cartoony sort of voices, but I'm having to do realistic drama this time, which I think would be perfectly fine for you. Because you're pretty versatile. You are very imaginative and creative with your voices. And I think drama and cartoony are both in your wheelhouse. I think you'll do just fine, Brian. Proud of you for as far as you've come. Dwight says, T101, I love that, thanks. Practice makes progress is going on my motivational wall. And it should. Just eliminate the word perfect from your vocabulary. Just get rid of it. Because that one word it has the ability to just stop and put a negative spin on anything that you say. If you say practice makes perfect, it's almost as if you're you're like putting the whammy on yourself before you even, just get rid of the word perfect, because there's no such thing. There just isn't. Just get rid of it. Practice makes progress. I like that so much better. Brian says, I'm not ready for Oscar level performances yet. Yeah, me neither. I don't know if I'll ever be. I don't know if that'll ever be an ultimate goal for me. I'm just fine working with, small and medium-sized businesses and indie authors. I'm just fine with that. I like being that for them. It makes me feel good. Greenwood Audio Creation says, to my cup of tea, absolutely. It's all about the listener who thinks you're amazing. Yeah, absolutely. John says, record, audition, voice train, read aloud every day, persist. That's right. Persistence. Absolutely. My cup of tea to Dwight says, no problem. Just sharing what has been helpful for me. John Freetag says, Calvin Coolidge. What is that in reference to? Did I miss something? What did I miss? I'm sorry. Caesar says to Brian, most of us don't think we are, but more to the point, most of us don't realize that we might already be ready. Yeah, absolutely. Or that we think that we might be, but we're just want to hang back, and maybe watch a little bit. That's also kind of a procrastinating stage, right? We want to stay in that nest because it's warm and safe and fuzzy, instead of spreading our wings and taking that first flight. That's easier to stay in the nest. It's easier, safer. But we're never going to soar if we don't step out and take that first flight. Mm-hmm. Or it might take the right script. It'll happen when we least expect. For sure. Robert Swanger says, hey, quick question. How do I feel less self-conscious when I'm recording loud parts or weird lines? I live in an apartment and feel like I'm bothering my neighbors. What you could do, I'm remembering something that I had to go through, which is sort of along the same lines. Depending on when you have the time to record, it could be like late at night when your neighbors are sleeping. And if you are having to shout, basically what we say is don't really shout. Just make it sound like you're shouting, right? When you're not really shouting, because you don't want to really shout anyway, because that could degrade the quality of your audio. So you don't want to do that anyway. But in terms of weird lines, like if you think about video games, when there's a lot of grunting and, when they're running, they're climbing, they're taking a hit, all of those kinds of weird lines, I'm guessing. It might sound weird to your neighbors, but if it makes you feel better, go introduce yourself to your neighbors if you haven't already met them and tell them what you're doing. Tell them you're a voice actor and that they may from time to time hear some weird stuff coming through the wall. If you're a spicy audiobook narrator, same thing. I would definitely go and meet the neighbors and say, hey, this is what I do. So if you hear any strangeness, this is what I'm doing. So, you could do that too, but I was, my story, just quickly. For those of you that don't know, I live in a townhome and my studio is on the ground floor, and about 15 feet away from my studio is a playground. Because when we bought this townhome, my son was young and I was like, playground, perfect. He could, run out there. But now that I'm a voice actor and audiobook narrator, that playground being so close is not ideal. And I was recording it was a video game, and I was grunting and screaming because I was being attacked by a shark or something on a strand. I was like on a desert island and being attacked by a shark. And so I was yelling and like blood curdling kind of, and there's kids. And there's kids out at the playground. So that was uncomfortable. But if people know what you do and then they go, oh, yeah, she's just working. She's all right. She's fine. We don't need to call the police. It's fine. Greenwood Audio Creation says, I finally got my Scarlet last night. Yay! So I can hear how truly terrible my room treatment is. Stop it. We're not saying anything negative about anything. That phrase, how truly terrible my room treatment is, instead of saying that, we're going to look for ways on how to improve my sound. The Scarlet will make it clear in the ways that I need to improve my sound. We're not going to say anything negative about us or anything pertaining to our business. We don't want to set ourselves up for failure and for all the negative things that we don't want. Why would we do that to ourselves subconsciously? Stop planting those seeds subconsciously. It's not good. You have to try to look at everything through a positive lens, including self-talk. The way that you talk about yourself is also important. So only positive. Believe me, it'll help. It'll help to get past some of the hard times. Positivity. John says auction, not action. Auction, not auction? You making fun of me. Greenwood Audio Creation says, Robert Swanger, ask them. Say, hey, I do some voice work in my apartment. Does it bother you? Well, I wouldn't ask them if it bothers them, because you might not like their response. I would just say, hey, this is what I do. Sorry if it, maybe perhaps instead you can ask them if there's a time where they go to bed, or, it's all going to depend on when you're available to record and, but you don't really have to shout. You don't have to be volume loud. You could just sound like you're loud. Unless, of course, you're doing a video game where you're being eaten by a shark and you need to scream. I mean, that was a little bit, I had to turn the gain way down and get way far away from my microphone. So, but rarely does it necessitate that. You can just sound like you're loud. My cup of tea says RIP your Caesar's mic. I know. Excuse me. Brian says, I was also having to fix my sound due to changes in my room. I got rid of boxy sound, then I had this weird ringing when I'd compress, and then I apparently overcompressed my sound, but I thought I barely had any on. I wanted to just throw up my hands and wash my hands of all of this, thinking I'm never going to get this right. But this is part of the process. I went through the same thing for like a year, and then I finally reached out to Tim Tippett as an audio engineer and a voice actor himself. And he set up my presets and some hotkeys, and that gave me a whole lot of confidence. So if you're at that point and you're able and willing to hire an audio engineer to audit your booth and to set you up, it's definitely worth it. Because just that, now I don't have that struggle anymore. That might just take everything negative off your plate, John says, although I do have a side hustle as an auctioneer. Oh. So you probably never trip over words as an auctioneer. Brian says to Caesar, thanks. Caesar says to John, like the fast-talking type of auctioneer? If so, that's amazing. I know, right? Amanda Panda, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. I think creatives need validation a lot. I think you're right. And so the anticipation of it is nerving, for sure. Brian says, sorry for the whining, guys. I've been locked in my room alone too long. Get out and get some air. Brian, go get some air. Greenwood Audio Creation says, even now looking at the GVAA rate sheet, I think that's ridiculous. I couldn't charge that. But when you get there, you will. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think to that point for the rate sheet, if you're uncomfortable looking at the GVAA rate guide and you want something that's a little bit more palatable for you, so you're a little bit more confident in asking for these, another rate guide to look at that's got it broken down by beginner, intermediate, and expert is Anthony Pica's rate guide. And we talked about this, I think, in a video not too long ago. I think it was last week or the week before. But if you go to aviosjourney.com, he's got a rate sheet up at the top, one of the tabs, and that one is a little bit more palatable in the beginning. Or just go straight for GVAA. That is the beauty. This is your business. Do what you want. Tycon Delar says, "Hi, Angela. I played a mind game with myself. I said, I just got a new job as a VO, and if I don't get better, they will fire me. So far, it's working. I've had 2 paid jobs since this mindset. That's awesome. I mean, do what you got to do, right? Do what you got to do. If you have to play a little mind trick on yourself, if that works, then that works. And then once you start to build some habits, then you can get rid of that. I'm going to be fired. Or if it helps, then keep it. You know?" Caesar says to Brian, "Incidentally, you can attenuate the resonant frequency before compression using a parametric equalizer. I had that problem too. It was a flutter echo from an untreated ceiling." Rob Williams says, "Hi, Angela and everyone. Love your podcast." Well, thank you. Thank you. Getting over being a 40-year-old radio production director, now doing VO full time. But things have slowed for me, starting VO coaching tomorrow. That's awesome. Congratulations. Taking that first step is hard, but you've already got a background in audio. So you've already got a little bit of a leg up than most of us do. So be grateful for that, because that will help. You'll understand some of the terminology and things more so than someone who was in the automotive career industry for 20 years. You have a better understanding of that stuff than some of us do. That's awesome, though. Congratulations. Let us know how it goes. Robert Swanger says to Greenwood Audio Creations, "I know that seems so simple, but I didn't even think about that." VO Tony says, "The count to 5 technique is similar to an actor taking a beat before continuing, kind of like a breath." Absolutely. And that's another thing. Do that. If you want to count to 3, if you want to count to 10, want to take 2 big breaths. I mean, however it is that you want to do that. But the point is to just clear your mind for a second and then just do it, right? Without overthinking. It'll help to overthink things. Mamanda Panda says, that's the super ego. I call it Gollum. Greenwood Audio Creations to Robert says, "We never do. We get scared. They're going to bang on our doors or freak out. Just ask them. They'll tell you if they can even hear you." That's true. It's true. They may not even hear you. Red Cabin Acoustic says, "Not knowing what a new client really wants haunts me." And I know. And sometimes they don't even know. Maybe they have an idea, but they can't quite articulate how to get you there. So sometimes it might take a few takes. It might take a couple of different, alternative sort of takes, like a couple of different tones, maybe a few different tones, until they hear something that sort of clicks for them. Point being, clients sometimes aren't quite sure what they want until they hear somebody voice it. So there shouldn't be really anything that scares you enough to make you not move forward, because everything is workable. Everything is learnable. Everything is teachable. Clients, for the most part, are willing and open to work with you on pricing, on tone, on answering your questions, on whatever it is. They're just people. They're people like you and I and the 47 other people watching this right now. We're all just people. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. There's nothing wrong with recording an idea. Maybe you have a script and they're asking you for some tone that you don't think is really appropriate. Record it in the way that they want, and then give them an alternate take with the way that you feel it comes across to you. They might just go, "Oh my God, your take was so much." Have you ever heard the phrase, a second pair of eyes or a second pair of ears, getting feedback or getting someone else to listen to something that you did, or if you've lost your keys, a second pair of eyes to come in and find the keys because you're overlooking it. It's the same kind of idea. Your take, your interpretation might be better than what they thought they needed. So many tangents today. Wow. Brian says to Caesar, I couldn't find a frequency. I found I had to lose all my minds. My ceiling is not done as well. I tried to put more treatment there, but I found I couldn't fit my head in. Oh, no. Greenwood Audio Creation says to Red Cabin Acoustic, I know exactly what you mean, but part of the magic is you showing them what they need. There you go. Brian says to Caesar, Flutter Echo. I think that could be like a whole Discord thread, right? The Flutter Echo. John says to Caesar, yep, that is so fun. Speech Hunter says, while I'm building my recording space, I'm practically reading through a whole book as if I were recording it and discovered something surprising. I can only go about 20 minutes of reading before my voice wears out and I need to take a long break. Maybe I have a misconception that I should be able to go for a lot longer. And you will with time and practice. Your lungs, right? All of that stuff is muscles that needs to be worked out. It needs to be flexed. It needs to be used. It needs to be, what was the word I was just going to use? But with practice and time, you will be able to narrate for longer periods of time. But also you want to get to a comfortable narration position and pace that allows you to go longer without exhausting yourself. And that, again, takes time to find that. Also having water available to you and making sure that you yourself, your position in which you're narrating is also comfortable. You want to be as comfortable as possible so you can narrate for long periods of time. And also, I have made myself take a break every 2 hours on average, but 3 hours max. I will get up, walk around, go do something else and clear my mind, leave everything in here and just go do something else. That also really, really helps. But having water with you and then feeling comfortable and finding your comfortable pace will definitely help you to go longer. But again, practice, practice, practice. Red Cabin Acoustic says to Greenwood Audio Creations, yep. Caesar says to Brian, Flutter Echo is fun. You clap and the sound reflects up to the ceiling, then goes down to the hardwood floor, then up to the ceiling, then floor, then ceiling, then, yeah. Stinks. John says, I am not a big quote guy, but Calvin Coolidge said it well. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. Omnipotent. The slogan "Press On" has solved, and I need to put my glasses on, has solved and always will solve the problems of the human race. The pressing on. Just do it. That one works too, right? Just do it. Kelseroni. Howdy, everybody. How's the obligatory late person donuts for the crowd? Thank you. See, donuts. If you're late, donuts. Brendan says practice makes better. Yeah, that works too. That works too. Armando says, great point, Miss Angela. Thank you very much, Mr. Armando. Mark Samuel says, hello, everyone. Not everybody will like what you bring. Odds are in your favor. Yes? Mm-hmm. Meaning not every voice is suitable for everything. I mean, you can't expect that your voice will be suitable for everything. You can't go in thinking that way. Your voice will be particular to, like, for instance, for me, I don't really do a whole lot of commercial stuff. I do mostly long form stuff because my voice is better suited for that. I feel I get hired for those types of jobs more often. I'm having a hard time speaking today. E-learning, audiobooks, some video game stuff, meditation, online courses. I mean, that kind of stuff is kind of my niche. Those are the things that I get hired to do most often. So I don't expect myself to be hired for everything because my voice isn't suited for everything. You just can't go into it thinking that way. You'll save yourself a whole lot of heartache if you do. Caesar says, woohoo! Dwight, welcome to the Got the Mom Look Club. I didn't do the mom look. Did I? Did I give you the mom look? I'll tell you what, though. I do need to turn on my air conditioner because it's getting hot in here. I'm not doing the rest of that. Oh, yay. Sounds like there's construction or something going on outside. Yay. Donnie's here. Hey, Donnie. I'm late now, so I will have to make my Elvis Donuts banana bread with peanut butter icing. Okay, you're just rubbing it in now. Stop. Robert says to Greenwood Audio Creations, this whole time, they probably can't even hear me. Can you imagine? They might not. They might not even hear you. Greenwood Audio Creations says to Robert, exactly. It's amazing how much apartments are soundproof these days. You've got to be screaming to get through. Robert Starling says, Angela, I made it to your live session. Happy Tuesday from Florida. Well, Robert, thank goodness that you're here. I'm glad you made it. That's awesome. Happy Tuesday from sunny, muggy Arizona. Robert says to Greenwood Audio Creations, oh, I scream all the time. Donnie says the VO ear will be your best friend and your worst enemy. So perfectly said. Oh, and we love your Tangelant episodes. Also, I finally get my studio and space dialed in and my allergies show up. I know. It's so crazy. VO by Tony says the count to 5 technique is similar to an actor taking a beat. Oh, before we kind of like a breath, something to ground you. Yes, absolutely. Donnie says 1, 2, 3, jump. That works too. Rustic Hillbilly is here. Well, good morning, Rustic Hillbilly. Thanks for sharing your experience. Morning, all. Thank you for being here. Sounds like they're power washing. Why are they power washing outside? It's a good thing I don't have anything to record right now. Ozlet Studio or Audio says, hi, Oz. I wish I had thought of the not shouting when I did my first book. It's a real game changer for me anyway. Absolutely. Absolutely, Caesar. Hello, 911. My neighbor is screaming. I forgot the safe word. Please put the whip down over and over. I think you might be in trouble. Oz says, hi, neighbors. I'm the guy who has been screaming at night. Caesar says to Oz, great minds think alike. Indeed. Robert Starling says, working as colleagues instead of competitors benefits everyone and the profession. I completely agree. Because this industry, this is one of the most warm and welcoming and supportive industries I've ever had the honor of being a part of. So without looking at each other as competition, because we're really not. Instead, comrades. You know, we all have relatively the same end goal, and that is to record voiceover for clients, right? And we seek support and help and training and, tidbits of information. We get all that from each other. And not only that, but we might be offered jobs. A friend of yours in the business voiceover tells a client that they know somebody that would be perfect for this role, and they reach out to you and hook you up with the client. I mean, networking is another benefit to being in these circles. Make friends. JCC AOL says, hey, Angela, I just wanted to say hi. I know it's been a few weeks. I know. Where you been? You owe me lots of donuts. Mark Samuel says, hello, Angela, and fellow VO talent. Best wishes for the week. Same to you, my friend. Robert Swinger says, I had to record for a fighting game, and one of the lines was, don't touch me, in a big grunt voice. I love video games for that reason, because then you might say something that you would never really say in real life. It's fun to say them. Caesar says, woohoo! Greenwood Audio Creations, welcome to the Got the Mom Look Club. When am I giving the mom look? I didn't think I was. Am I? I do have RBF, so don't confuse that with the mom look. Because when you get the mom look, you will definitely know the mom look. I didn't think I was giving it, but I could have been. My cup of tea says maybe that's why the police visited me all those months ago. I mean, it could be. Warn the neighbors ahead of time. Armando says, I record on demand, and if my neighbors don't like it, tough. They don't pay my bills. I mean, that's another view. It's another way to handle it, I suppose. P.S. If my neighbors can hear me, my sound booth is crap. Yeah, but it's more important just for those of you watching that may not have a space to record in yet. Your recording space doesn't need to be sound proof. It just needs to be sound treated, meaning the interior. So they might hear you outside. You might even hear what's going on outside of your recording space, but you don't want the vibrations of your voice to bounce around in your room, right? So if you can't get it to be soundproof, don't freak out. My booth is not soundproof because I was just listening to power washing outside, and I'm sure if they got close enough, they could probably hear me talking as well. It just has to sound good inside to the microphone, right? So don't freak out if you can't get it soundproof. Oz said, Imposter syndrome and me are old friends by now, but I love VO, and yeah, have learned that I can actually do this. Not the same as others, but yep, I can, as can we all. Absolutely. Robert Swanger says, sound ordinance is 10 p.m. to 8 a.m., so I try not to record during that time. Now, you think that would be the best time to record. Oz says, unless you're screaming. I mean, yeah. Oz says, of course, finding your channel early on and knowing from a pro that we as VOs represent the world was a great way to start. As ever, thank you. That's the way I see it. It's the way I see it. We do. There's a need for every voice. Donnie says to Caesar, my Tuesdays rely on seeing the mom look at least once. God. Oz says, night, guys. Good night, Oz. Thanks for joining us. Greenwood Audio Creation says to Caesar, thanks. I've been wondering when it would happen. Is that the mom? Did I just do the mom look again? Okay, I think I know what you're talking about now. John Freetag says, quick question about auditions. ACX suggests 3 to 5 minutes, but I have had several that have been way over that. ACX suggests either stopping at 5 or contacting the rights holder. Thoughts? I think 3 minutes for an audition is max. I think that is sufficient. 2 to 3 minutes is where I would say an audition is fine. Because ultimately that rights holder is going to know if you're the right voice within the first few seconds and then continue to listen if you are. But I think if a rights holder gives you a paragraph, not a paragraph, a page or a chapter or even the whole book, that does not mean you have to read all of that. It just means that that rights holder may be giving you options. Maybe there's a few key points in that chapter that maybe they want to hear you narrate. You're to choose one. Or they're not tech savvy enough to slice out a 3-minute snippet. Maybe they don't know how to do that. I mean, don't overthink it too much. Just choose a section, give them a 3-minute audition, and move on to the next one. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Red Cabin Acoustic says, I always send extra reads. That's a good habit. Dwight says, ducking out now. Need to take a 1-hour COVID nap. Oh, no. Get some rest, Dwight. Have a great day, fellow Angelinians. Caesar says, rest well, Dwight. I shall sacrifice a horsefly for your swift recovery. We're all out of goats. Red Cabin Acoustic says, I'm listening on the elliptical now. Losing weight and better health improves my performance. Absolutely. Staying active, exercising. I just started kickboxing and I feel great. I feel like I have more energy, more breath, which is also a good thing. If I could just get this sinus cold thing out of my head, I would be so much better off. But definitely staying active will help also, especially with for those of you that sit while you record, because sitting for long periods of time is not good. Being sedentary for long periods of time is not good. That is also why I stress getting up, taking a break every 2 to 3 hours max for me. No matter what I'm doing, break out of the chair, because it's not good to sit for long periods of time. My cup of tea says, take care, Dwight. Absolutely. Dylan says, Angela, you should be proud of Caesar. I am. You should be proud of Caesar and Donnie. I totally am. You have advice to somebody on how to last longer, and we didn't even make one joke. Thank you for behaving yourselves. Scott Otshow says, I recorded a 4-minute script for a client, but then on the way home one day, I recorded 7 quick takes I dreamed up on the fly. They loved it. They put me on a monthly retainer. Do it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Do it. Donnie says to Dylan, it wasn't easy, but I refrained this time. I appreciate you boys being good, behaving yourselves. Caesar says to Dylan, oh, shoot. Now I feel compelled to. No, resist the urge. Resist the urge, boys. Adam Roussel says, hey, Angela. Hey, Adam. Enjoyed my first workshop last week. Good. How do you know if you could benefit from having a custom EQ? I know you've mentioned yours before. If you're having trouble, let me just say, for me, I was stuck in the overwhelm phase. I knew that there were a lot of effects. I knew that there was a certain order they had to be in for your effects rack. I knew all of these things, but getting them all to work together in harmony for me and my recording space, I was having a hard time getting my arms around that, getting my head around that, getting it set to where, and also I knew that my opinions may not have been accurate to what truly needed to be done. So I needed an unbiased, outside, professionally trained person to tell me what needed to be done, so I could stop the overthink and the worry and the doubt and the anxiety every time I applied my effects rack. I needed someone to tell me, this is all you need. And I'm going to create this EQ preset for you. And I'm going to add a couple of hotkeys for you that's going to make your life easier. And I'll tell you what, worth every penny. Because now I don't have any of that anxiety that I did before. I'm not second guessing everything that I do or apply my effects rack to. I know it's right. So it's definitely worth it if you're in that phase. Greenwood Audio Creation says, Arizona, how do you have a bucket nearby just in case you melt? How do you not have a bucket? Let me tell you, we're coming to the point where I was just talking about this the other day. We're coming to a point, probably sometime next month, you're going to start to see on social media a lot of voice actors and audiobook narrators narrating in their bathing suits. Because it gets hot and we can't have the HVAC on. You can't have the air conditioner on while you're recording. You can't have fans on or anything that makes noise. So it's definitely a challenge, but I'm down for it. I can take it. Oh, yeah, I know what you meant. Dylan says, to make up for the mom look I just got, probably. Everybody remember to hit the like button to appease the algorithm gods. Yes, Dylan, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, please gently click the like button. And if you're watching this in Team Replay, please consider subscribing. I really appreciate it. No smashing, just gingerly click would be good. Thank you. Donnie said, I was so scared when I got my first book offer. It took an entire day to click accept, and they had to do the 1, 2, 3 jump method. Good. Yeah, the first everything can be terrifying. Caesar says to Adam, you can never ever go wrong with custom EQ. It brings out the clarity in your voice, cleans the noise floor, and may even fix recording space problems like nearby fan noise, etc. Greenwood Audio Creation says, oh no, it was the mom look when I was talking about my terrible sound. I might have done the mom look then. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And how excited I was about hearing it. Mm-hmm. John says, in the AZ West Valley heat, I am going to have to start working nights. AC has to go off in my studio during recording. And yesterday did an audition at 93.8 degrees. I feel you, brother. I feel you. You know, cold packs will be your best friend because they don't make any noise and they sort of keep your core temperature down. John says, I always record standing. Your diaphragm fills with more air and you can last longer between breaths. Mm-hmm. But if you're in a position where you can't stand, much like me, because the way that my room is configured, there's no room. There's really just room for my chair, and I just kind of swivel out of the room, swivel, sit down, work. I mean, it's super tight. I cannot stand. So if you can't, it's another reason why you should get up, walk around. But if you can stand, that's of course ideal, unless you're doing audiobooks. It might be hard to stand for long periods of time, but ultimately, you do you, boo. You do what feels comfortable to you. My Cup of Tea says, peace out, fam. Catch y'all next week or in Discord. Yes, absolutely. See you later. Adam says, thanks, Caesar. I appreciate the input. How should I go about getting a custom EQ? Is there a preset that I should play around with in the meantime? I use Adobe Audition. There is in Adobe Audition, there is the parametric equalizer that has a voiceover setting, which I don't think is perfectly suited for everyone. Of course, there are just too many variables for everybody to use the same setting on everything, but you could start there and play with it. But ultimately, getting an audio engineer to help you is your best bet. Caesar says to John, so do I. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Long reads can be a challenge, though, but I find that my acting ability improves when standing. You can move around a little bit more. Brian says to Scott Ott show, do you send in all 7 quick takes at one time, or do you send in 7 auditions? I would send them all at one so they can reference any of them attached to your name at once. Some of them might get lost in, the flood of auditions that come in. I would send them all in one file. Caesar says standing reads also have to be done using the clicker method. So you have to kind of punch and roll in your head to keep your performance consistent. That means more editing time. Bagley Games says, lived in Bullhead, AZ. The heat is no joke. No joke. Scott Ott says to Brian, I recorded them on the iPhone when driving home and uploaded all 7 to a shared drive. I did it because they hadn't responded yet to the scripted version. Took a chance. Take those chances, man. Shoot your shots. Speech Hunter says, my front door is 30 feet from a 70-mile-an-hour highway, so I'm working on building a booth that blocks Harleys and 18-wheeler air brakes flying past and shaking the whole 100-year-old house. Challenge accepted. I love that positivity. Get it? I love it. Dylan says, in all seriousness, thank you for the stream and your constant encouragement. Hey, man, if there's only one thing that I can do for you guys is just to be your cheerleader, I will do that. Because I know how that feels. I know how it felt in the beginning. I needed someone just to kind of tell me, you're doing the right thing. Just keep going. Don't let anything stop you. Don't let anyone tell you you can't. Don't let anyone tell you you shouldn't. If any kind of obstacle comes your way, you will find a way around it, through it, past it, over it, under it, doesn't matter what. You can do this. You got this. And if that's all I can do for you, then I'm proud and honored to do it. Absolutely. Caesar says, oh, advice from experience. Allow your cold packs to thaw a little after taking them out of the fridge. You'll get freezer burn marks on your skin, even if you're wearing a shirt underneath. I wrap mine in towels first. So, yes, don't put them directly on your skin. They are frozen. John says, who's a Jedi Master in Twisted Wave? Oh. I know Chris isn't here, but Caesar, are you familiar with Twisted Wave? I don't know anybody that uses or does videos. I mean, it would be worth YouTube searching and hop on to after, not now, after my live stream. Search in the search bar, Twisted Wave voiceover. No, don't do it yet. Wait till my live is over. Thank you. Respectfully. D. Hort says, Angela, I know you recommended or mentioned 3 plugins, NS1 and DClicker. What was the third? Also, just so I am clear, EQ is distinctly different from plugins. Equalizer is a effect that is available to you in most DAWs. If it's not, you can always purchase one from Wave, Waves, the plugins. I think Isotope also has something equivalent to an equalizer. Most DAWs have one native, though. Some sort of an equalizer. I'm not sure. It was probably an equalizer. But NS1 is a noise reducer, a low-end frequency noise reducer, which I recommend is a good one. The mouth declick through Isotope RX11 or RX10 is fabulous. Not the declick, the mouth declick. That one is a little bit more in tune with organic noises, right? That one is a very good one and well worth the investment. The third one is probably a EQ because that will enhance the clarity of your voice. Everything Caesar said earlier, decrease noise in your room. There's a lot you can do. Find and reduce sibilance. There's a lot you can do with an EQ. Caesar says to Adam, well, the vocal enhancer preset used to be my starting point, but my workflow has changed since then. This will be a long conversation. Are you on Angela's Discord? If you're a platinum member, then you have access to the Discord. Robert says, I had Lenny B do a custom preset for me, and once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Wow. Right? Worth it. Greenwood Audio Creation says to Speech Hunter, I know just what you mean about living in that shaky, rattly 100-year-old house. Fun times. Leslie's here. Hey, Leslie. To John. George Whittam or Jim Edgar is great with Twisted Wave. Well, there you go. Caesar said, Craig used or uses Twisted Wave. Chris uses Reaper. I use Audition. I haven't touched Twisted Wave in years. Adam says to Caesar, thanks again. Yes, I'm on the Discord. I think I'd really benefit from having someone take a listen to a sample recording and giving some unbiased advice. Well, you're in luck because we do that a lot in my Platinum group. We do that a lot with auditions and with live reads for performance. We do a lot of that. So you're in luck. Caesar says to Adam, I'll be happy to help. Hit me up. I'm easy to find. He's the spicy Szechuan Caesar. Adam says, will do, Caesar. Really appreciate the assist. Yeah, we are a very helpful group of people. Very loving, supportive. We're family, pretty much. I know it's kind of cliche to say that, and people tell you that, like your first day of the business, when you get hired somewhere new, and they tell you, oh yeah, we're a family here. That was always very cringy, but with this industry, I have never found that to be more true. We're very supportive and helpful to each other. I love my Platinum group. Very awesome group of people. What time is it? Oh, I should probably get going. I will be here next week on Tuesday, same time, 12 p.m. EST. If there is something, if you're watching this in Team Replay, if there's something that you would like us to talk about as a group, or if just a question that you have that you would like me to maybe expand upon in one of these group sessions, then leave it in the comments below. But I will see you guys next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, get rid of the word perfect from your vocabulary. You'll thank me for that. And just keep practicing. Practice makes progress. No such thing as perfect. It's an unattainable goal. Just get rid of it. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to use it because it's false. False. All right, you guys. I'll see you all next week. Bye.